Hello and welcome to the Lost World Minute, the minute-by-minute podcast reviewing the 1997 sequel to Jurassic Park, 1 minute at a time. I'm Brad.
I'm Dave.
And today we're back to review minute 21 of the Lost World. Dave, how you been?
I'm good. I finally got my pool up and I finally got my Terminator gun in.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, I got pictures of both of that up on my Facebook.
Awesome piece. We took a little bit longer to get back to this record after the bonus show we done last week for you listeners, and that was cut down. We were going for nearly 2 hours, or just over 2 hours, so I did manage to get it cut back down to about an hour 45, but it just goes to show when we start talking about the Lost World, we can go on for a long time.
Oh yeah.
So that's up in the feed now for anyone that wants to hear our overall thoughts of the Lost World. We big thank you to Jay Jurassic for coming on for most of it. He was limited for time, but the time he gave was definitely well worth it.
15 years ago, John Hammond had a dream. Like John himself, the dream was grand. It was outside, it was bold, it was impractical, it was not to be. Well, half an hour from now, John Hammond's dream, reimagined, will come true. For 1/100th the cost of building a destination resort thousands of miles away. Before
we get into today's minutes, David, Jurassic PD is up and running currently. We promoted it at the very end of the bonus show, but I honestly don't know if too many people hung around for the full hour and 45. JurassicPedia.com, successor to Legacy. A lot of yourself and some of the guys from Legacy are working on that. Yep. Pretty much just an online resource bringing back the encyclopedias. And all that to bring it all back online.
Yeah, I really tried to gather the top minds in the fandom to work on this because I know that they have a passion for it, and if they have a passion for it, it'll get itself done, and they want to have that knowledge out there.
Yeah.
So that's the main goal of Pedia itself, is to have that knowledge out there, be a resource for the fandom, to be there for the fandom if they have questions, to be something better than, well, frankly, Parkpedia, which is so susceptible to trolls and vandalism, unfortunately. I don't know why it is, but it is.
Yep.
But it's got to be something that's not going to get vandalized, but will be a resource for the fandom, be right for the fandom, and you can trust is going to actually be truthful and integral and have integrity for it.
Yeah, and that's one of the good things too, being done by fans and staying true to the actual canons, and not sort of leaking in fan theories, all that sort of stuff. It has a place, but not in the general, whether it's the general novel, film, or game canons.
We kind of keep that split up, and because it's just incohesive if you try to put it together. Like, a lot of people, even the site founder, likes to have his own headcanon that Trespasser is part of the movie, but he acknowledges that it is incompatible with the movies.
Yeah.
And so we keep it separate. And so things like the shape of Isla Sorna in Trespasser and the dates and stuff like that just make it incompatible with the movie. And so we do the same thing with the novels. That was the whole idea of canon separation really came from Michael Crichton after The Lost World. He was asked about it in an interview, and he said, well, Spielberg made his movies and I wrote my novels, and I like to think of them as separate.
Yeah.
So we like to respect that and keep the canon separate.
Yeah.
You got films, you got the novels, you got, and then the games are each kind of their own little. It's really more of a archival than a canon in the sense of the games. The comics have their own canon. Everything gets separated, and it keeps it a lot more organized that way.
Yeah, and you can do your own personal mental gymnastics to try and tie one into the other and everything else, and there's no issue with that whatsoever. I think one of the biggest things to try and understand is the Isla Nublar map.
Yeah, really.
Like, there was a marketing map, there was what you see in the control room, all these different 4 or 5 different maps, and then what later come with Jurassic World, which completely flipped everything on its head once again, and it's sort of you do your best to try and fill the holes as best you can, and sometimes there's a couple of little leeways you got to do. But for the most part, it's what we've seen on screen, and it's canon to a T as best we can. Mm-hmm. So we've got Jurassic-pedia.com is the website, and we've also got the Facebook page as well, where Jurassicpedia. Yep. And
then if you are into fan fiction and you are into fan art and collecting and tours and stuff like that, we do have a forum called the Jurassic Bungalow Forum. It doesn't have a lot of movie discussion on it. We try to keep that. This is more just like a creative forum, just to post up and comment and interact with other fans who like to collect and draw fan art and write fan fiction and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We sort of got rid of just a general discussion about upcoming movies or the movies themselves, because that often leads to issues, I'll say. But yeah, just somewhere where if you're a writer, if you're an artist, even cosplayers as well, just sort of share your craft really, and talk to other people in the same aspects of the franchise as well. Yeah, so that's all happening over there at Jurassic-pedia.com.
Yep.
Mommy! Daddy, you've got to come see this! I found something!
There's a little bit of news coming out of the Jurassic World these last 2 weeks. More set pictures emerging from Hawaii, one including a radio tower, which will be interesting. They don't actually have photos of that set up yet. Real News just reused the set from the radio tower from Lost, which was interesting. Also, we're seeing the bunkers. There's a new, air quotes, Owen's shack being built as well. So
it's like a house-like structure.
Yeah, definitely a lot more, a lot larger. I think the only reason people are comparing it to it is the fact there was an old RV park beside it, but it could be anything, so grain of salt.
With these movies, they can turn pretty much anything into anything. Parking garage into a cliff face, stuff like that.
That's exactly right, and I find it amusing that there's still people online when they especially when our next bit of news, how photos have emerged from the wrap-up ball from London. Filming in London's finished, and people still assuming that the film takes place in London just because it's filmed there. Where yes, there might be some scenery shots and that. We know Lockwood Manor's there. Whether Lockwood Manor is actually in the UK in film canon or not, that's a completely different animal. But I wonder if those same people thought that Jurassic World took part in Florida because it was all filmed at Six Flags in Orlando. So those background plates, you can put it anywhere. CGI these days. But
really.
Yeah, we got some photos out of the ball over there. So filming's ended there. They're just about ready to start filming in Hawaii, which will be interesting. So I know I'll be definitely staying tuned online for more pictures and news to come out of Hawaii.
Yeah, Star Wars shot for 40 years at Pinewood Studios, so it'd be like assuming that the galaxy far, far away is right in the United Kingdom.
Oh yeah, yep. Same with Aliens. Aliens is all shot at Pinewood.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That's like LV-426 is really a soundstage in London. Yeah. Or even the new Alien Covenant. Most of that was filmed here in Australia too. So.
Was it really?
Yeah, they filmed a lot of it at Fox Studios here in Sydney.
I haven't seen that yet. I'm planning on seeing it sometime this week.
Well, whatever your thoughts about the actual film are, I don't know if you watch it or anything, but Adam Savage, who used to be on Mythbusters, has a tested YouTube channel, and he recently, the last couple of weeks in the lead up to Covenant, he'd been in Sydney and visited some of the set pieces, looking at all the alien blood. A lot of the props from behind the scenes, sets, the sounds, which it just sort of enhances the film. Knowing so much of it was practical, sets and props and that, which was good to see. So that might be worth having a check out too.
Yeah.
Se llaman las cinco muertes.
They call the islands Las Cinco Muertes.
Sí.
What does that mean?
5 deaths. He says.
Alright, so, do you want to get into this week's minute?
Sure, let's go.
Rightio, let's do it. As we finished the 20th minute of The Lost World, we had Eddie telling Malcolm not to shoot himself in the foot, that he'd be dead before he even realised he had an accident. As we start the 21st minute of The Lost World, we get arguing in Spanish as Nick and the boat's captain emerge from beside the RV, followed by the captain's son. At 20 minutes and 2 seconds, Nick tells Ian that the guy wants to unload here. He doesn't want to go any further up the river. He's heard too many stories about this island chain and wants to drop us off. At 20 minutes and 10 seconds, Ian asks Nick what stories. Nick translates to the captain. The captain's heard stories of fishermen that come too close to the island and never returned. The ship has a satellite phone and a radio. When you need him, send the call, you'll be here in 2 hours. But he will not stay here. He won't stay anywhere near these islands. They call the islands Las Cinco Muertes. The 5 deaths, he says. At 20 minutes and 50 seconds, Eddie Carr rolls his eyes and the music begins to swell. At 20 minutes and 53 seconds, the scene changes to the vehicles already been unloaded and driving up a valley, dark and mysterious, mist-covered hills. And this ends the 21st minute of The Lost World. Alright, so we open the minute up with Nick. We hear Nick arguing with the ship's captain. He doesn't want to go any further upriver. He wants to unload there and head offshore until they send a radio call. He's heard too many stories about the island chain and wants to take his son offshore and anchor offshore, which is interesting. He's got his son on board. It's a commercial vessel. And then we get Malcolm asking what stories, and we hear the fishermen getting too close to the island, never return. And I suppose we see more of that in Jurassic Park 3, especially in the opening incident.
Yep.
Of what happens if you do get too close to this island, anyway. And we get he name drops the 5 deaths, which is an interesting little thing they include in the film, but then they didn't go any further to elaborate on it. Mainly the 5 deaths was a big part of it was mainly brought up in the novel.
Yeah.
It was a chain of 5 islands, 200 miles southwest of Costa Rica. All the fans know the names, Isla Sorna, Tataco, and the others. And the names come from a Native American myth about a brave warrior facing a different execution on each of the 5 islands: burning, drowning, crushing, hanging, and beheading. And it's a common misconception because in the film they're called the 5 deaths, and the boat captain says anyone going too close to the islands never return. That it's possible InGen had facilities and dinosaurs on each of the 5 islands, where that's not the case. They've only ever been on Sorna.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of fan theories. Oh, what if Site C, Site D? They're not going to go for more islands with dinosaurs. Colin said before that they want to move off island. They reckon they've exhausted their storytelling they can do on the islands. It's been done 4 times now. They want to move to the mainland. So there's no Site D on Isla Pena.
I remember when Jurassic Park Legacy was still up, we had a text-based RPG roleplay game based on Isla Sorna called Live the Legend.
Yep.
It's basically you play as a dinosaur, as like J-Pog, without the fences and without the boundaries, without constraining technology of any kind. But you got to play as the dinosaurs, and people got really fanciful with their characters, and it was a lot of fun. But anyway, towards the end of it, we started moving off to the other islands. We had one that was mostly Cenozoic, and then we had one that was mostly like Precambrian what was the one that came before the Mesozoic? With the stuff like that.
Oh, now you're making the old gears crank over.
And it was it just became huge. It spread all over the islands, and we opened up Isla Nublar for stuff like that. And it just always reminded me of that. Like, what if people getting their fanfic mixed up with the canon, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. And I've written fan fiction before with the other islands involved for different reasons or another. So they are there. They're sort of they seem to be close together. I think they're only about 5 miles apart or something. So it's more than possible that someone that dinosaurs swum from one to the other, but you're not going to get a breeding population swim from one to the other, migrating if you will. But yeah, that's interesting anyway. And Isla Nublar is not one of the 5 deaths as well. I often see that one, thinking they're on the same island chain. It's interesting in this article here on Wiki. Apparently, the map we see with Kelly in the trailers, a smaller version that appears in Jurassic Park 3 in the set somewhere.
That's the infamous prop map.
Okay.
That's the one that's based on the earlier script for The Lost World.
Yep.
And they reused it. Apparently, they're supposed to have reused it in Jurassic Park 3, I guess, but nobody's ever found it in the movie.
Yeah.
It's always been like a production used piece.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, one day if we do Jurassic Park 3, we might be able to get a closer look. As we do it minute by minute, we might actually find it.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
The interesting thing is that the Lego Jurassic World game did use that prop map, and not only used that prop map, but used the old Jurassic Park Legacy locations that they placed on that old prop map.
Oh, interesting.
Before they redid their map.
Yep.
So I just thought that was interesting. It's got the same locations, the same. It's really kind of neat that they implemented a fan map like that.
Well, playing the game and having experience, especially the Lost World and Jurassic Park 3 sections of it, there's a lot of little added detail, added aspects to it that only a fan would do. So I reckon there were some fans on the development of the game.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yep. All right, and then we get the captain. He's got a satellite phone. It's interesting in the frequency for that radio, and presumably the number for satellite phones only written down on a little bit of paper that Malcolm later has in his pocket. You'd think.
What was it again? 15-8?
Yeah. Yep. Which also sort of comes into the SS Venture 5888 as well. So
yeah.
Often that was my password or PIN number for a long time. But yeah, it's just interesting that it's just written down on a little bit of paper. None of the equipment's set to the right frequency. And we've seen how much trouble they're having with the satellite phones. That's obviously why they never tried the phone. They went straight for the radio. But yeah, send the call. We'll be there in 2 hours. Which asks the question: how far offshore is he going? I'm pretty sure you'd be right a mile or two offshore, not 2 hours away. It almost seems like he's going back to mainland.
Well, he might have been. I know in the novel that both the barge and the helicopters were based on the mainland of Costa Rica. Then again, I think in the novels the islands were both much closer to the mainland than in the movie.
Yeah. Playing up on that superstition and that the boat captain definitely doesn't want to hang around. I would have loved to have seen a vehicle, like unloading the vehicles off the barge.
Yeah, that would have been interesting.
And we'll get to that next minute too, with getting the vehicles to where they go and everything else, because we get a nice little eye roll from Eddie here, not believing in the what Los Cinco Motors means, and that we start to get the swell of Malcolm's journey and the vehicles driving up the valley, which again, great shot, and we get very, very little of it, unfortunately.
The original planned site for the Gallimimus Valley, Spielberg always wanted to film in that valley, and you can see it in the behind-the-scenes features, for Jurassic Park, where Spielberg's got the camera, he's asking a bunch of cows, "Hey, you guys want to be dinosaur food?" or something like that. But Hurricane and Nikki forced them to move the Gallimimus Valley to Oahu.
Oh, okay. That's a shame.
Yeah, I just thought it was kind of interesting that, and it's supposed to be in a river, but this actual place that they're on is like on the other, is like right outside a harbor, and I believe it's the same harbor used in that B-roll shot from the first Jurassic Park where you see the waves crashing against the break wall.
Yeah, yep.
Storms rolling in. It's just outside that harbor.
Oh,
is where they're at. But the water looks so brown and murky, and it always looked like a river to me, like something you see on a river in the United States, where like the Mississippi, where you just got that muddy brown look to it.
Yeah, it's like they've had heavy rainfall or something over there. Because, yeah, you got that little lagoon they've come into to launch, and he said they're not going any further upriver, but if you have a look behind them, when they're driving up the valley, there's no river, it's just like a stream, if that, running down the middle of it, so I don't know how much further they could have come inland anyway, but yeah, we get them drive up the valley and onward and inward to minute 22.
Alright.
So, if that's all you've got for minute 21?
Yeah, I think we're good.
Rightio.
Alright guys, let's get the hell out of here.
Contact details are on the website, thelostworldminute.com. You can email feedback to thelostworldminute@gmail.com, Facebook, The Lost World Minute, Twitter @thelostworldminute, and Instagram, The Lost World Minute.
Easy to remember.
Yeah, yep, very easy to remember. David, thank you for joining me for this record.
Welcome.
And we'll be back. I've been Brad.
I'm Dave.
And we'll talk to you all later. Goodbye.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
It is absolutely imperative that we work with the Costa Rican Department of Biological Preserves to establish a set of rules for the preservation and isolation of that island. These creatures require our absence to survive, not our help. And if we could only step aside and trust in nature, life